Hey, hope you're having a fantastic day and welcome to another video. Now let's get straight into it. I have a lot of books in my physical TBR and I did not really realize this until the last few weeks. So I want to talk about it because I am in the middle of trying to reorganize all of my bookshelves and I like categories, right? And I realized I've been keeping all of the books separate, right? I like to have my own TBR, but I've got like too many categories. Like I have too much organization and I really like to fill up my shelves and I kind of want to make it feel like you're going to the bookstore, like you're pulling books off of Barnes and Noble. And like, I know what I haven't read and what I haven't. And like, not that I don't enjoy all of these books being on its own, but I like to fill in my bookshelves a little bit more. So I figured let's go through. I don't even know all of what I have. Like I do, but I don't, but I didn't realize how many books I also did have on my unread TBR, like my physical TBR. And that number is 93 books on my unread physical TBR. And that's not even including most of the books I also have, like I've bought off of Kindle and stuff doing like the Kindle sales. So I've got a few on there as well, but that's not important today. Today is only the physical books. So I am excited to go through all of these. These are all books that I am really excited to get to. I just haven't gotten there yet, right? Like there's just a lot going on. So we're just gonna start kind of from the pile. Let's just start over here. This is an easy one to kind of talk about. So this is the All Souls trilogy. It's the Discovery of Witches trilogy. I've not read a single one, but I found this a while ago. I really enjoyed, I believe they made a movie? No, TV show about this. And I watched the first season because I'm like, I know this is a good book series and like I've heard fantastic things about it, right? But I was just so scared. I'm like, well, what if I don't like it? But I watched the first season and I was like, yep, you got me. I'm hooked. This is about a witch and she ends up kind of falling in love with a vampire and things kind of ensue from there. Something happens and they somehow are then sent back in time. But I think she has a lot more power than like what they've seen in centuries because like the witch's powers are dying out. So it kind of spells from there. I know it's supposed to be really cool. I've heard really fun things about it. I've not heard any bad things about this. And I enjoyed the first like season of the show, so I'm like, if I like that, I know I'm gonna like the book series because the book series is always better, right? Like it just always is. So that is my first. The next, let's just go ahead and grab this next one. This is easy to grab. These are the last three books in the Faithful and the, if I don't get them all, Faithful and the Fallen series. The first book is Malice. I have read that and I enjoyed it so much I went ahead and just got the rest of the series, like the last four books. So this is John Gwynn's debut series? Yeah, so I read his other series a few years ago and I really enjoyed it, but this is his technically series that he did beforehand. I really enjoyed his writing style then, but these are some thick, chunky books, right? This thick stack. That first book was a little slower to get through, but pretty much the premise is the world is broken 1,000 years before the gods have now disappeared, right? And they don't know why. These humans are having to live in these banished lands and there's giants, but now, fast forward 1,000 years after all of this has happened, these giants are coming back into play and we don't know why. There's this big kind of conspiracy theory or fate, prophecy, whatever you want to call it, kind of going on between a few men. There are a lot of characters in the series. I will say it will get kind of confusing. It's kind of Game of Thrones style where there's lots of characters. You kind of have to just get on with it. But it's really interesting, all the character breakdown, and what I really enjoy about this series specifically is I have a harder time with like someone like the battle and like maybe war tactics, if that makes sense. Like the ones that are like confusing, like you don't know what's going on in like a fight. These books are not like that. I like know exactly who is slicing and dicing who, and I really, really enjoy that. And from the first book, even though it was slower of a build-up, like I really feel like you needed it in order to understand all the characters and their morals and ethics and like how they think in order to understand what transpired near the end of the book, which will literally blow your freaking mind, okay? It'll blow your mind, and you're like, what? And then you're kind of set on this adventure, which is where you go into the second book of Valor here, right? Is that the last book? Yep, no, second book. Yeah, Valor is the second book in the series. So I'm really excited to continue on the series. This is a thicker series. It'll take me a little bit longer to get through, which I do not mind at all, but I'm really excited for this series for sure. My Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Now, this series is a very popular series. If you haven't heard of it, I'd be surprised. It's very big. I did just get the whole set just for Mother's Day recently. I literally mentioned it to my husband and my mom. I was just like, oh, if you ever want to get me a book series, like get me all of the Dungeon Crawler Carls. In hardback, and I was shocked because I wasn't ready for it. But anyway, Dungeon Crawler Carl, I have read the first two books here, and the rest I just kept packaged in their things, right? That way when I read them, I could just take them out. But I do have books 3 through 7 here. there's book 8 coming out this fall. But anyway, moving on. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a very interesting, fun read series, right? So pretty much aliens kind of take over the world. The earth gets flattened, and in order to survive as a human, you either can try and survive out on the land and on top of the earth's surface, which is not very livable anymore, and it's kind of taken over by aliens, or you have to go underground into this like a labyrinth and like video game RPG kind of thing, right? Like Hunger Games style. So our main character, Carl, and his cat, Princess Donut, go under, and now they are just kind of advancing through all these levels of, honestly, craziness and Hunger Games style-esque, right? And you're competing against like a bunch of other humans in the world, and you have to make it through all these different levels. I believe there's 18 levels through it all, and it's really, really fun. It's enjoyable. It's a fast-paced read. There we go. And it's really enjoyable. Like, I gave the first book, like, as a 5 stars. Honestly, I'd give it a 6 stars. Like, it's so fun. It's interesting. Not only is it funny, but it's enjoyable to read, but also it brings up a lot of interesting moral and ethical dilemmas, which you were just like, you don't think would happen, but it's just like, no, this is what actually would happen. But the way it's like got a fun twist to it is really, really enjoyable. So this is one of my all-time favorite series. I would say, yeah, it's enjoyable, and like I'd read this again and again. So again, that is how it kind of progresses through the series. So I have lots to still catch up on, especially for the last book that's going to be coming out here in a few months. The next on this beautiful long shelf that I have of the entire series is the Black Dagger Brotherhood. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite series for sure. I have read the first 4. Well, technically I haven't read book 4, but I read the first 1 through 3 and then 5 because 4 wasn't available on the Libby app at the time. So I have to go back and read those. But again, I just got this again the whole few months ago. My mom, was this for my birthday? Yeah, for my birthday. My mom ended up getting me the entire set. So this book series started in like early 2000s, right? So this is a long book series. It's very interesting. It's dynamic. It's about vampires. Pretty much it's about this Black Dagger Brotherhood. They are like the ending of the vampire race. The vampire race is kind of dying, but it's in the modern world, right? And it's super interesting. And each kind of follows a love story of it in each of the beginning of the first books of like the original Black Dagger Brotherhood. And then like how they're kind of going through and saving their world and kind of revamping themselves in order to like continue to protect the rest of the vampire race. And it's very interesting because it's kind of like old school style, and like these guys are like hundreds of years old, and like how the vampires are incorporated into this world, and they're like these big, heavy, muscular dudes, right? They're all warriors, but like they're all driving these big black sedans and listening to a lot of rap. And it's really interesting. It's fun. I love the different characters in these. I think they're very dynamic of characters. I like getting to know them and then their potential mates and like love interests in all of these. And it does kind of go along in this series, from what I understand. It does follow like the main characters, but there's a few side characters that obviously, of course, become main characters as the stories come along, because there's a lot of books in this series. I currently have 27 of the books unread on my physical TBR. So there's a lot here, right? But I am super interested in the series. I love the series. It's an older series. I feel like I hear nobody ever talk about this series, and I don't know why, because it's so good. Even like my mom has read this series, and she has read it like since the beginning. And I have fallen in love with these characters, aka why I've gotten the whole set, and I'm so excited to be at 27 books of just this unread series. So I'm really excited. I really, really love these books. I think they're incredible. They're super entertaining. Of course, I'm a vampire lover, but this is something of such a dynamic read that I think a lot of people should pick up, and definitely you should be adding this TBR if you still have not added this to your TBR yet. But also, one thing I really, really enjoy about this book series is not that like you don't want to like grip and read through the series. It's the fact that like you can read a book and then put it down, and you can still go to another book series. It's not like it's so gripping you have to get to the other book. It's like good to continue to read like as you want to. It's not like I can't wait until the next book. It is to a certain degree, right? But it's like it finished up this story that it was trying to talk about for the most part in the book that you read, and then you can set it down. If you want to move on to something, you can, but like that's a lot of books to get through, right? But also I like that aspect. But anyway, definitely add this to your TBR if you have not had it on your TBR yet. Let's hop into a few of my indie reads that I have here. I picked these up not that long ago at a little kind of book exchange thing, and these are really, really fun. I have them all signed by the author, so let's get talking about them. A Realm of Rebels by Tanya Ibrahim. If I am saying that incorrectly, I apologize. This is one, she's kind of a princess. Things are falling into rebellion. That's kind of all I know about it. It's kind of like a found family type of situation. She's trying to figure out who she is. Her father left her a gift, and she's not sure why. And that's just kind of where the story goes. And I'm interested to get into it. The author was extremely nice, and so I think it'll be fun. The next book is The Dragon's Lair by Sharon Barnes. Honestly, the only thing I know about this one is the fact that she's a dragon shifter. I know nothing else about this, but it's a very short, quick read. And again, the author was super sweet. I really enjoyed her. So I've got good hopes for this one. And then the next one is A Dagger of Lightning. Now, I think I find this one really interesting because not only is she's like 45, our female main character, but she is like not wanting to do like anything like with her powers, right? Well, somehow she gets kidnapped by an alien prince, and she is like kind of forced to show her powers and like try and help save his alien race or something to that degree. And I believe, oh, hello, we have a guest. Kate has joined us. Say hi, Kate. She's like, no, just put me down. I just want to snuggle. But anyway, so yeah, we just kind of follow her along. I think she ends up kind of falling in love with the brother, so a bit of a love triangle kind of going on. But yeah, that is A Dagger of Lightning. I'm just going to grab this whole stack and go through the stack here. So the top is Daydream by Hannah Grace. Now this one, I am still so on the fence about because I really enjoyed Wildfire, right? That is book 2 in the series. Icebreaker was okay. And like, I keep wanting to read this, but I'm just unsure how it's going to go. And like, it's been on my TBR for a little while, like probably since it's been out, but like, I just want to know. But pretty much the premise of this one is she's a bookie girl, and the main guy or main female love interest was it Henry? Yeah, Henry. And of course he's on the hockey team. He's like the funny guy. And I think that they kind of meet up because he's failing one of his classes or something, and she tutors him, and love kind of inspires from there. I heard she's like the oldest daughter, so there's like a lot of like those innuendos kind of happening, and like I really enjoy Hannah Grace's writing style, and I think this is going to be a good book, but I guess I'm still just unsure of like I'm wanting to know that I'm going to like this, because like Icebreaker was okay. I really enjoyed Wildfire, and there's a lot of people that like hated Wildfire, so that's why I'm unsure of like, I've heard like this is everybody's like favorite of the like trilogy so far, so I don't know. We'll see if I like this one. Anyway, Saint by Adrienne Young. Now I'm gonna tell you, I think this is the book that's been on my TBR the absolute longest, and I need to read it soon. It is on my TBR, like more immediate TBR for sure. Now, this follows Saint. So if you know Fable and Namesake by Adrienne Young, that is a finished duology. This is the prelude. So pretty much what happens in Fable and Namesake, the kind of like how it starts. I promise this is not a spoiler. Fable is cast off by her father, which is the pirate lord, right, or the pirate king, and she at 15, and she after her mother's death, and she kind of just has to figure it out from there. And so this follows her father's story, Saint, who is the king or the lord of the pirates, and I'm interested to see what happens and just his point of view and like how he got to that point. Like, how could you leave your 15-year-old daughter to pretty much fend for herself on this terrible island? I mean, it showed her grit and determination, but to just drop her off there and like, I don't know, I'm interested. So I'm interested what his story is. It follows him along. I'm sure how he, number one, becomes pirate lord or like pirate king, right? And then how he falls in love with his like Fable's mother. And again, like just his view and aspects. Like I really enjoy Adrienne Young's writing. It's very easy. This is a YA. I do have issues with some YAs. Like some of them I feel like they're written too young. As I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't care for that. I don't notice that in her writing style. So I'm interested to get into this for sure. This is one that I'll be reading sooner rather than later. The Rise of Neptune. This is book 2 in the Last Dragon on Mars. Yeah, the first book is Last Dragon on Mars. First of all, take a moment to appreciate this cover. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now, the first book in the series I have read, and it is absolutely beautiful. Check out the sprayed edges. It's actually just as beautiful as this book, but this book kind of falls like, is it a middle grade? I would consider it middle grade, maybe not YA. It's the main characters are around like 12, 13-ish years old, but I enjoyed this reading this as an adult, right? But anyway, so we're following him along. They all live on Mars. People live there. He kind of lives in an orphanage where nobody really cares to look after them. He stumbles upon a military base, let me back up a little bit. So in this world, like, each planet has like its dragon protector, kind of like Mother Earth, but it's Mother Dragon, if that makes sense, right? So there's this kind of big conspiracy. They think all the dragons are kind of dying out, and our young main character, he kind of goes around, who is the orphan. He stumbles upon a base and uncovers a dragon that's not supposed to be there, and ends up bonding with it, and like that kind of throws everything through a loop. It's a bit of a sci-fi aspect to it, but it's got more fantasy elements in it as well. And I really, really enjoy it. Like, it's very intriguing. It's very easy to read, easy to follow along. And so that's what we follow along going into book 2. Like, there's a big kind of battle, and like, you're really unsure of like what happens at the end. Obviously, it's left on a cliffhanger. So I'm interested to get into this next book, because it's really fun. It's entertaining. It's engaging. And like, I enjoyed it as an adult. Like, it'd be really great to read with other kids. But again, as an adult, I love this. How to Rate a Love Story. Now, I am so excited to read this. This is also more in my immediate TBR plans. This is about, so her father, our female main character, has passed away, and he was like this big writer, right? And something happened to him, but he's written this like 8-book like extravaganza, right? And like the last book is supposed to come out to finish off the series, but of course he died before he could publish it. So his publisher sets out finding the daughter and just like, hey, we need to finish this book to finish the series for these people, right? Like we got to do it for the people. And so she's just, I don't think she's ever written before or anything like that. So they travel to the Irish coast where the father lived. And it kind of ensues from there. She and the publisher are just trying to put together like a manuscript and trying to figure out how to end the story and like what the father just had decided to do with the story, and love kind of ensues from there. I think it's pretty really cute. I think it's gonna be very atmospheric. I've heard really good things so far, but it just seems like a really fun premise. Like, well, first of all, it's a book about books, so who doesn't love that? But also, it's just about like finding love in like untold places. I think maybe she finds connections to the father that she didn't realize she had. But also, it's just an interesting story, right? Like, the father died, leaving this book series, but how is she going to end the series? I don't know. It just seems really, really fun. So I'm excited to get to this one for sure soon. Accomplice to the Villain. This is book 3? I think this is book 3. That sounds right. Book 3 in the Assistant to the Villain series. Now, I have unsure feelings about this one. Assistant to the Villain is a pretty popular series if you haven't heard about it. The 4th and final book will be coming out some point, I think later this year. I think it's September. I enjoyed this book series. I loved book 1. Book 2 was pretty good. Obviously, I have not read book 3, but it follows the premise of Evie. So Evie is having a hard time kind of finding a job, right? And she's in this really small village. She happens to be out in the woods where the villain lives, right? Ends up coming upon him, chance meeting, and she ends up getting employment with the villain, right? It's a silly, goosey, fun time. Like, it's a really fun, interesting story. And just kind of follows her around as like her as like the secretary of this evil overlord. And it's really fun as the series progressed. It's gotten a lot more serious tone than the first book. But again, it's been fun. It's engaging. I will be finishing the series. I'm hoping things go a little bit more smoother than the second book did. But again, it's bringing a lot of fun characters, and it's a silly, goofy, fun time. If you're looking for a just easier read to get into, these books are for you. But this is book 3, and I am waiting to read it until book 4 comes out, because I'm just gonna have to reread the whole series again, because I don't remember every detail that happens to know what the heck happens at the last final book. But this is book 3, at least so far. All right, let's just do a quick rundown of they're like fun, but like not that fun books. So these are all like self-help-ish books. I went on a bit of a spree about a year ago. So long story short, last year I ended up deciding to not only leave the job that I thought was absolutely the one that I absolutely loved, but I also ended up leaving my career, and that left a really big hole in me, because again, I've been in that career for 10 years. Like, I went to school and grad school for it. Like, I spent a huge decade of my life not only at the office I was supposed to take over, but to also think that career was going to be it for me. And it just didn't work out, and that's okay. But I went through, and I'm still going through like a lot of trauma and trying to figure out like, where does my life go from here? What do I enjoy? What do I not enjoy? Because again, my entire life was based around that. So I have a lot of self-help books that I have kind of picked up, and I know I've started some of them, but I know I haven't finished almost all of them, and almost all of them are on my TBR, but I'll just kind of quickly go through this. Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. Now, I have heard nothing but really, really good things about this. Again, I am so scared and paranoid to never like get burnt out again, because I think that's exactly what happened. I was working like 80+ hours weeks. I was pouring my heart and soul into this. Like, I had no other time for family. Like, I prioritized my job. And as much as I really thought I was such a career-oriented person, I think I am now, after leaving and like really thinking about it, like, I don't know that that's who I am anymore. And just it's just not what ended up, I think, would fit into like my 10-year timeline. And again, like, I don't want to die and like that's all I've ever done is work, right? And like pour myself into that. And I think that's one of these books. I've heard really good things about it. I don't want to have to burn out again. So that's pretty much the premise of this book. The next book is Never Finished by David Goggins. Now, I read his first book. I don't remember what it's called. But anyway, his first book was one of the books that I had read first after like everything and all the trauma and the things that have happened. And it really changed my outlook on life, and I'm really excited to get into this one. So the first book is about the premise of like his life, and he was a former Navy SEAL. He served our country for 20 years, and he was literally giving the shit end of the stick, honestly. He was given a really rough and tumble life. He is a mix. He's half African, half African, like half white, so he's mixed, and so that was interesting. He grew up in a very small town, and he's like 50 years old at like this point in time, right? Like retelling a story. So like back in that time, like that was not easy to grow up in. He literally lived in like the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and so that was hard as a mixed kid to grow up in. He grew up fat. I believe his father was extremely abusive, not only to him and his brother, but also to his mother. When his mother finally escaped, of course, like she's a single mom, has a really hard time providing for himself and for her. And he then joined the military service, and then kind of have gone from there. Like he was literally giving nothing in this world, and the way he like stood up and got through that, I find that very interesting, and like how he's like coming back, and it's always like pushing yourself to your limits. Like, how do you know how far you're going to get unless you push your limits? And I really like the aspect, and it's really like no shit's given, like get up and get it done, and I love the aspect. And this kind of follows him now after that book, kind of where he's going, and this follows he's also a like ultra marathoner runner, I think that's what it's called, ultra marathon. So pretty much they go out in like the desert and like weird things and Moab 240 and things like that, and they run like, it's like a 7-day race or however long you like finish it in, and it's like 300 miles, like something like crazy like that. And that's what he does now, and like that is what he, I think, goes through in this one. And like whether or not you fail, like you learn from your failures, and I really enjoyed that aspect. I really like the way he talks to you. Like if you don't like a bit more of like a military push and a bit like get off your ass, like you're not gonna like his writing style, but I really enjoy him. I think he's really inspirational. I love his techniques that he talks about, but also it's just like the utter honesty, and I love that about him. Like there's no fluff with him, and I think that's what makes him him, and I think that's what I enjoy about him so much. So definitely excited to get into this. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Again, I've heard lots of really good things. I've heard there's lots of like good like techniques and things to talk about, and again about your inner control and like how to look at yourself in a better way, because I tend to be very bad thinking about myself, so that's really good. And that also leads into the next book, Don't Believe Everything You Think. Again, I tend to be very self-doubting, very harsh on myself. Like I would never be harsh to anyone else. Like I'm always very mean to myself, and I don't mean to be, right? Like these things just happen, right? And so I'm really interested. Again, this is a very short read, and I did briefly start this. Yeah, I made it to like page 22, but again, I still haven't read it, so this is still quite literally on my physical TBR. But this is a really just interesting, good read so far, and again, it's just about like your thoughts don't have to be what actually becomes reality, and I like that. I like the aspect, so I'm excited to get into this. Honestly, I know nothing about this book other than it was really popular. I think it's really interesting, but it's called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and I want to read it. That's as simple as that. And the next book I have here is Building a Non-Anxious Life. Now, I loved this book. I have read at least half of it, but literally every time I've gone to read it, I end up having to put it away because I was borrowing it on the Libby app, and I literally, every time I get into it, because it takes me a long time to actually read like self-help books, right? Because they're not fun. They're not interesting to talk about, right? Like, I mean, they are, like, they're good for you, but like fantasy is so much better to read. Like, I'm sorry, it just is. It is. It is. Hands down it is. But this is really interesting. So this follows along. I love his viewpoint on anxiety and how to literally build in like a non-anxious life, and like he literally gives you really good building and stepping stones of how to move forward in life, and especially after trauma, PTSD, things not working out the way you thought they were going to, and I really, really enjoy that. So I'm interested to get back into this book. But this is a really good, inspiring book too, because like it makes you feel not so alone, because obviously you're not the only one always going through these issues. And again, not to say like, oh, your situation isn't unique. It definitely can be. But I like the aspect of this one because it's how do you move on from that situation, and like how do you make your life the most optimum so you don't go back into these anxious cycles. And I like that. Atomic Habits, of course, is a really popular one. It is literally how to stop being so toxic to yourself and getting rid of those habits so to be your most optimum self. It's literally as simple as that. Anyway, moving on. This is one that I will say I think is really interesting, Women Who Run with the Wolves. This was, I think, written in like the 1990s. I don't know much about it other than it seems to be like the really fun, cool one, and it's about women being badass bitches and how to achieve that. So that's what I'm assuming this is going to be about. The next is the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And Mel Robbins is a very, I wouldn't say an interesting character, but she's, I think, a really good, interesting human being. She seems very genuine. She runs a podcast. She's got a few other books out, which is the Hi-Fi Rule and like the 5-second rule, something like that. And again, while I was going through all of my things through this last year, I think because I was having a hard time of like letting go of like everybody's perception of me, and I think this will really help me. I did briefly start it like, oh, look, I even have it marked. Look at that. I made it to page 33. But again, I didn't finish it, so I put it on the back burner to start. But I think this is a really interesting read. I really enjoyed it. I think the aspects are really good to just, again, who gives a shit what everybody else thinks, right? Who the hell cares? It's your life. You live it. And I think being able to read this is going to help me let go and move on from a lot of things. So that's really good. The next one is The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Now, Dave Ramsey is very popular. His debt snowball method is really interesting. He has helped me pay off a lot of debt. I still have a lot of student loan debt, but like that's like, we don't want to talk about that, right? We don't want to talk about that. But I liked his viewpoint on how to manage your finances and how to move forward in life. And I think that's really, really fun. So I'm excited to get into this one. And the last not so fun book is Outlive. Now, I was a doctor. I live and breathe doctor things. And so I always find this one super interesting. I also have a few autoimmune diseases that I treat with naturally because I have a hard time with like regular medicine. So I'm interested to see what is in this book. The only thing I don't like about this book is like it's so oddly shaped. I don't like the way, like, why is it so long this way? I don't know why that bothers me so much. But anyway, this is about just how to live and how to outperform and like what to live with in your best life. And I find that very intriguing because it's more of like a MD standard kind of book, right? And like how to just age naturally and a little bit more gracefully from the inside out. And I think that's going to be really interesting to read into. I've got the Rule of 3 series. This is technically my husband's, but he keeps telling me that I need to read this series. All I know is about a YA dystopian, something happens to the world, things ensue. That's all I got on this one. I've got Fireborn, Flamefall, and Fury Song. This is a Finnish trilogy. The only thing that I know anything about this series, I've had it on my shelf for quite a while, at least 2 years. I really need to read this. I've heard it's the YA version of Fourth Wing. Now, is that claim correct? I don't know, but I've heard nothing but good things. I think I've really been pushing out and I've had these on my physical TBR for so long because I'm so worried. I really enjoyed Fourth Ring. Yes, the writing was extremely terrible in the first book, and then going to, was it Iron Flame, the second one? I do believe I am DNFing the original Fourth Ring series because I didn't like the writing style. I didn't like things that are happening in it. So I've got such high hopes for this book series because if it's said to be a YA version of Fourth Wing, like, how do you compare to that? Hopefully the writing is much better, but we shall see, to be determined. But that is the finished trilogy that I have in my hands right now. The Lord of the Rings series, I got The Hobbit and then the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. I've never read the books. I've only ever seen the movies, and I'm really excited to get to these. I will be reading The Hobbit this August. That is my current plan, but there's not much to say about this. If you don't know what this book series is about, I would be extremely shocked, but I've got them on my physical TBR. The Knight and the Moth. Now, this is a very popular series. I would be shocked that you haven't heard of this yet, or at least this book. I know the last book comes out this year, but The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. She also wrote the One Dark Window series, if you've read that one before. Now, I will say I did not enjoy the first One Dark Window series. I didn't like that. But this series, I think, intrigues me more. This is going to be just a duology. But this follows our main character, Sybil, and she is a diviner, right? So she has dreams, and she can read prophecies. She meets with, like, the lead people, I think, like, for omens and things like that. But she's near the end of, like, her, like, servitude of, like, her god or whatever is happening in the story. And this weird knight is like, yeah, we got to go on this quest. Let's go. And it kind of ensues from there. I think it's going to be an interesting point of view. I think it's going to be a really good time. I've heard, like, the yearning is beautiful in this book story, and I'm interested to see how it goes. I think it's going to be a different twist. I really enjoyed, the one thing I did like from One Dark Window is the magical system and that, so I'm interested to get into that one, because like I didn't enjoy that book series at all, like that duology. It wasn't for me. It felt almost too beginner. I don't know, but I liked this one. I liked the magic system in there, so I'm interested to see what she writes up in this magic system. The Witch Collector. Now, when I tell you, I believe this book has been the longest on my absolute TBR. Not my physical TBR, but just my TBR in general. I finally picked this up just a few months ago at Barnes & Noble, and like this has long been on my bookshelf, or like TBR bookshelf, right? But it's been on my physical TBR for a little bit too. But I am really excited about this book. This follows our main character. Like every year in her village, like the witch collector comes and collects one of them and takes them to like the Fae land or something like that, of like the immortal Frost King, something like, maybe it's not Fae, but like in like the immortal kingdom, right? But something along the lines happens. Her sister was taken, and she wants to not only get her sister back, but also kill the Frost King. But in order to do that, she kind of has to like team up with the witch collector, and things ensue. I've heard the romance is really good in this. I think there's 3 books out so far. I think there's going to be only 4 books in this series. If I'm correct, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 4-book series. I believe the end of the last book comes out this year. I believe so. Anyway. Besides the point, but I'm really interested in this one. Again, it's the longest on my TBR. Not my physical TBR, but the longest on my TBR. For sure, super interested to get into this. Deep End by Isla Hazelwood. Now, I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with Isla Hazelwood. Like, I really enjoy her books, but some of them I feel like are kind of so off the wall that, like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, that's the only way to describe it. But this one, I believe, follows along 2 swimmers. Like, one, I think our main character, Scarlett, is like a diver, and our main male character is some type of Olympic swimmer. And they're just trying to focus on their lives, right? Like, they're Olympians, or like trying to go to the Olympics during the series, and like they kind of need to scratch each other's itch, and so they just kind of enter into this like agreement where they like do things with each other, right? And like it ensues from there and ends up being like no strings attached kind of thing. But like, of course, there's always strings that are attached, and as like the fling kind of is supposed to sparkle out, maybe they end up having feelings for each other. And I'm interested in to see what's happening. Again, a love-hate relationship with Isla Hazelwood, although all of her stories I end up eating up every single time. But I think this one is going to be really fun. I think I'm interested. It's college-aged, and I think it's going to be fun. Again, like the Olympian aspect, maybe the swimming aspect. I don't know if I've ever read a book about swimmers before, but I think it'll be fun. Seek the Traitor's Son by Veronica Roth. Now, Veronica Roth is the one who wrote the Divergent series. Now, this is one of the newest ones I picked up in my Book of the Month box. And first of all, take a check out this sprayed edges, okay? Very, very interesting. But this is about our main character. She is like a guard of some sort. In this world, fevers will overtake a lot of the people, and you come out with lots of gifts, right? Things happen, but there's a prophecy between her and pretty much her most hated enemy, right, have come about, and like one of them will lead their people to glory and like save her people, but they don't know which one. It's either her or like her enemy. And it's also something along the lines of she has to go and find the one guy who she's going to fall in love with, but she doesn't know who is it going to be. And I think it's very interesting. I think it's more of a dystopian fantasy vibe. And again, I love the Divergent series, so I'm interested to see what Veronica Roth is going to do with this book series. Again, it's intriguing. Something about this like just is like, what's going to happen here? So that's really interesting about this book. The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. Now, first of all, check it, but then let's check this flop. Check that flop. Anyway, though, this one has been one I've been wanting to pick up for a while, and I'm so glad I did pick it up because number one, it's so pretty, but also it's so intriguing, and it's a pretty thick book too. But this follows in this world, like each person and like being has like, there's raven, like they have like animals as their like token, right? Like ravens, bears, foxes, and like they're in like certain parts of the government, right? Somebody dies or is killed, and there's kind of like a tournament or like trials and tribulations as to fill the seat in like their Senate or like presidency, government, whatever you want to call it, right? And so our main character, aka the Raven Scholar, is sent to go and figure out, number one, who killed this person that was like part of the Senate or the government or whatever. But then she kind of has to like follow along and like what's going on with this trials and tribulations kind of thing. And she's kind of like, who did it? A little bit of a murder mystery, but also like trials and tribulations, who's going to take over this main seat. And I think it's just going to be again, I hate to say this word, but it's intriguing. It's an intriguing read. I've heard the like world building is like really interesting, and I've heard like it's a really good pace. It's not like fast paced, but it's a good pace. But the magic system and like the world itself is also really, really cool. And so I'm interested to get into that. And I think it's going to be a really good read. Under Lock and Key by Lena Ferguson. Now, Lena Ferguson, I love her. I have not read one of her books that I have not loved. And you can't tell me this isn't going to be a good book. Because, of course, it involves Scotland, too. Like, hello. Anyway, though, The Under Lock and Key follows our main character. She was raised by a single father. He never really talked about his past, so she's unsure. He ends up passing away, and, like, lots of secrets are revealed. So she goes to Scotland to try and figure out who her dad was and, like, why he didn't talk about his secrets and, like, why this mystical being ended up saving him in some way, shape, or form. And then that's where she meets our main male character, who is somehow connected to Scotland, and things ensue from there. I love Lana Ferguson's writing style. I love her spice and romance. I love the build-up, and it always is like an interesting, fun, they can be like fun, goofy reads, but they're always enjoyable to read. There is sometimes some spice to them, but it's done so well, and I think that's what I enjoy. It's like a really well-balanced romance. Like, you get every aspect, and it's got a little bit of a fantasy thrown in the modern time frame with whatever this potential, I'm assuming, Loch Ness monster is going to be involved in this in some way, shape, or form. But again, it's Scotland, it's the vibe, it's the thing, and I'm gonna enjoy it, and I will be excited to read this here soon. Mate by Allie Hazelwood. Again, love-hate relationship with Allie Hazelwood, but I did enjoy Bride. There were so many people who hated Bride, and I don't know why. But this is Mate, the second in the book series? Yeah, in that book series. So Bride was about, like, werewolves and vampires, but this one is about Serena? Yeah, Serena, so her best friend from book 1, right, that, like, grew up with her. Serena has, like, an unknown kind of past or lots of secrets, right, but she is a werewolf of some sort, and she, in order to, like, kind of save herself and, like, get away from certain people, she ends up marrying an alpha of one of the other packs, and things ensue from there, because, of course, she's hiding a bunch of secrets, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. I really enjoyed Bride. It was really, there's a lot jam-packed in the book. I know, so there's a lot of different themes going on, and definitely check your trigger warnings if you're unsure, if you're not into certain werewolf things, wink, wink. You might not like this book. I'm just putting that out there. But I really enjoyed the first book, Bride. I really enjoyed to see what happens with Serena and her character. Again, it's a werewolf. You can't go wrong with vampires or werewolves in any book. So this is definitely on the list. The Uglies. Now, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about the series other than it was like in the hit time area of like 10 plus years ago, right? The Netflix currently made a movie from it, and I read the movie and I really enjoyed the movie, so I'm like, if I like it, of course, if I like the movie, I'm gonna like the book better, because the book is always better. You know this. We know this. It's been established, right? So Uglies is kind of a dystopian world in the future. Pretty much there's like the haves and have-nots, and like until you turn a certain age, you are considered an ugly, but then once you turn that age, you like turn into this, it's not even a cyborg, but you pretty much get like upgraded and you're so pretty, but things aren't always what they seem. Like, I think you like never age from that point on, but at what point, what do you lose in order to go through that, right? And it kind of follows our main character along. She's young, getting ready to go through the stage, and I think her eyes are really open to like some of the rebellion that may or may not be happening. And again, I enjoyed the movie. I haven't checked the movie out on Netflix. Definitely watch it. But again, this is an intriguing movie. It's dystopian. It's YA. I think it's right up my alley. And again, I believe it's a finished trilogy. Yeah, that sounds right. Finished trilogy. Taurus Season by Bryn Weaver. Now, I did enjoy the Butcher and Blackbird series and things like that. It was not my favorite thing in the world, but I have, this is technically my mom's book, but like it's mine now. Like, it's on my shelves, right? Like, it's mine. Anyway, though, I did enjoy the other books that she's written. This is not associated with that, but I think this is really going to be tied to that in some way, shape, or form. Pretty much there's serial unalivers, but like for the good, right? Like, they usually like unalive a lot of people like who aren't supposed to, or like maybe have slipped away from the law, things like that. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens along in this storyline. It kind of follows along the aspect of our main character. She is a like, in this touristy town, she lives there year round, and like she doesn't want people to come in and ruin her perfect home, right? And then in comes this tourist who also wants to unalive other people, and I think kind of things kind of ensue for there. This is a dark romance. I think it's going to be funny in certain aspects, but definitely check your trigger warnings for this. This is not going to be a light, easy breezy read. It is an interesting twist on dark romance, and I think it's just going to be really fun. Also, I think it's a really pretty sprayed edges here, but again, check your trigger warnings. If you're not into this, you're not into like serial unaliving and like certain things to go with that, this is not the book for you, but I think this is going to be a fun, enjoyable read. Dragon Fruit. Now, this has been on my TBR for a while. I do not think this is a finished series yet, but pretty much all I know about it, it's like Moana, but with dragons. That's literally all I got. All I got on this one. But I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm all about it. I love Moana. I love dragons. I'm into it. Half-Blood by Jennifer Armentrout. Again, this is one that's definitely been on my radar for a long time, but pretty much what is the premise of this one is her mom and her have been on the run, and her mom was pretty much unalived, and she has no choice but to turn back. She is a half human, half a witch, but she has no choice since she's been on the run. She has to turn back and go to this like witch university, but she's not wanted there. Things ensue from there, and it just kind of goes on. They're trying to make sure they're not getting killed off by demons or daemons. It's spelled a little differently along this one, but she doesn't have a choice. She kind of has to go back in order to survive because it's just her and her alone now. And things ensue from there. It's a magical university. I love universities. And again, witches, again, where can you go wrong there? But this is a several book series. I believe this is a YA series, and she is like 17 years old. Again, lots of good things. I've heard lots of good things about this. This is a more known series, I think, as well, and I think it's going to be good. Starside by Alex Astor. Now, this has quickly become a very popular book on Book Talk and things like that, right? Like, Alex Astor also wrote the Lilac series, which I absolutely loved and adored to my core. I love Alex Astor as a writer. She can write like angst, like no tomorrow, like yearning, like love it. Lilac, I believe, considered YA. This is her adult debut series, so I'm super excited for this. And I love the premise of this because it follows along in this world. You kind of a have or have not. In order to get powers, you're not born with them, you take them. And I love that aspect. I think it's really interesting. So it kind of just follows along, like every 50 years, this like trial is like held. So if you want to get like powers, you can, if you're have or have not. So it follows along our main character, who is a have not, goes there to win over a sword and to get powers. And of course, love ensues in some sort of form in there. And so I'm really excited to get into this. Alex Astor writes so beautifully. And I believe I think it's just a duology, and I think the next book does come out this year. That's exciting. I totally forgot about that. I'm pretty sure it does. But I love Alex Astor's writing. Again, as I said that, I'm pretty sure like already 5 times already. But I love her. I love her writing. It's always interesting. Every time you think you know what's going on, you don't. And I love that. She shocks you. You like don't see the red flags and everything. And it always just gets you going. Red City by Marie Lu. Now this is another book of the month one that I've gotten. I've heard such good things about it, like I had to get my hands on it, so I'm super excited for this one. Pretty much there's alchemy. It's similar to like the Uglies, except this one it's like in a form of like a vial of sand, something like that, and you take it and things happen. And it's kind of like, again, the version of haves versus have-nots. It's 2 young childhood friends kind of end up kind of going against each other. One who's just trying to make the guard and like take care of her mother, and like things ensue from there. Like she just wants to survive, right? She doesn't really care. The other is like a high alchemical university student of some sort, but something happens, they're brought back together and things ensue from there. It's intriguing. It sounds high entertainment. It sounds like conspiracy theories are going on. I think there's a lot just going on in this book, and I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really intriguing and a fast-paced read. Babel by R.F. Kuang. Now this is more of like a dark academia vibe from what I understand. Our main character is of some type of Asian descent, and he is picked up by one of the scholars after he was orphaned from cholera, and he's brought to London and is pretty much grown up to be and like learn all these different languages and go to the special university at Oxford and in order to like learn stuff, right? Like things ensue from there. And something happens along the lines of like, there's like a specific language that can no longer be read, and I think the like professor disappears or something, and the main character takes it upon himself with like one of his other classmates to like go and find them. And like I've heard the magic system is really interesting in this, so I honestly don't know a whole lot about this one. I think it's better to go into this one a little bit more blind than have more information of. But again, it's definitely I don't know how popular I would say it is, but it's pretty popular. And again, dark academia. I think it's going to be interesting, intriguing. The plot lines are always very interesting with R.N. Kuang. So good things from this one. Immortal Consequences. First of all, check it. It's so pretty. I love the sprayed edges on this one. Immortal Consequences. This one is a very interesting storyline. I've heard good and bad things about this. And again, I'm not sure how I feel about it. But again, I haven't read it, so obviously I don't know what my feelings are. But this follows the premise of there's 6 students. Now they're all dead. And this, like, there's this university that takes place. And they're all like in the afterlife. And they're all kind of battling it out to try and figure out who can go back into the mortal world and like become alive again. And again, that aspect is so interesting, right? Very intriguing. Like, number one, a university for the dead. But then I think there's lots of conspiracy theories. Things happen, of course, it's not all what it cracks up to be. But again, you're dead, and these 16 teachers trying to figure out like how do they get back to living, but only one is supposed to. So I think this is going to be really good. The Will of Minnie. Now, I believe this is a pretty popular series. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you haven't, go look it up. I know this is going to be a good series. It's like a dystopian, sci-fi-like aspect. Pretty much, it does follow our main character. Something happened to him. He's there to investigate a murder, but he goes into this university. He's trying to get answers, and he won't leave without them. And things kind of just ensue from there. It's a bit of a revenge story. It's a rebellion. There's lots of things happening in this one, and a lot of deception. Like, there's supposed to be like a lot of deception that happens in this, right? Like, he's saying who he is, but that's not actually who he is, and like things just expire, and things just seem so interesting in this book. Like, this is like a perfect sci-fi dystopian-esque read that I can't wait to get into until soon. Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. Now, I believe this is a more middle grade read as well. First of all, I know I picked it up because it is just so freaking gorgeous, but the main character ends up saving a baby griffin, and he kind of ends up finding this archipelago of all these different islands, right? And he goes and tries to figure out, like, why are all of these magic beings dying? And nobody can figure out why. So him and his buddy end up trying to figure out what's going on to save all these creatures. And that's the premise of this book. It's really cute. It's very bright. It's very beautiful. I know it's the first book in the series, but it seems just like a fun, easy read, but also like it's an adventure. It's going to be fun. Maybe Gulliver's Travels, is that a good word? Uncharted, the movie it's bringing, like but again, with magical creatures, right? It's bringing really fun vibes, and I think that's exactly what I'm wanting out of the book. And so that's what's going to be in this book. Silver Lake by Danny Francis. Again, pretty popular book. I have had a lot of people tell me good and bad things about this. All I know about this is she is some type of psychic. They're not allowed in this world. It's like a dystopian-esque vibe in this book. Pretty much, she's been honing her psychic abilities, keeping it completely under wraps. She goes into this like guard duty or like magical university type thing, right? But then she ends up kind of falling for like the dude that she's not supposed to, probably like one of her guards or something like that, right? And things ensue from there. She's part of the uprising. He is not. And things ensue from there. It's supposed to be pretty spicy. It's dystopian fantasy-esque. A lot of things happening. Not more I gotta say about it. Bloodbound by Ellis Hunter. Now, this is one of the, I'm sorry, I didn't make it that. This is one of the newer releases from Book of the Month and just in general. I am super intrigued by this book series. I think it's gonna be really interesting. It's kind of two friends. One is she's some type of witch and like the last witch of like her entire people, right? And there's a rebellion sparking, and the other witch who ends up becoming a friend of some sort, or no, she's not a witch. She somehow is a dragon shifter involved with a dragon in some way, shape, or form. They end up kind of joining forces, and it's destined that the witch is going to battle it out with another person in order to like determine the fate of all of the people of the land, and things kind of ensue from there. I think it's going to be a really intriguing plot line of friendship, of rebellion, of just trying to get to know themselves, you know, things like that. I think it's going to be found family. I think it's going to be really interesting of a read, and I've already heard good things about this so far, so I'm interested to see where it goes from there. Wings of Fire. Honestly, I know nothing about this book. I accidentally picked it up from a book sale a while ago at a thrift shop, and I had no idea, but apparently it's supposed to be really, really good, so I was going to donate it back, but I heard it's a really good book series, but other than like dragons, that's all I got, that's all I know, and so that's all I gotta say about it. Sith. Now, I know this is a more popular series. It's a dystopian series, pretty much what happens in this world. These two teens end up going to apprentice the Sith who take lives, and neither of them want to do it. And I think kind of a dystopian-esque vibe kind of ensues from there, and there's a bit of a rebellion, I think, going on. I think it's just a 3-book series, and things just kind of go from there. I think, again, this is one of those kind of books where you want to go in blind. You don't want to know much about it, but that's all I got. They're supposed to be unalivers, but they don't want to be, so I'm interested to see what kind of happens in this one. Dawn of Ankhs. Now, this has been on my shelf for a while, I will fully admit that, but I am really excited about this one. So this one follows our main character. She is some type of healer, has some type of healing abilities. She ends up giving up her life to save her brother, and she has to go into the service of like the wicked king, right? And she has to heal like all of his soldiers and things like that who are constantly at war. And of course, she's pretty much maintained as a prisoner, right? And so she's wanting to escape, but she's not able to get through any of the woods alone. Like, there's no way she could survive it. So she turns to another prisoner, aka most likely our love interest, and we don't really know who he is, and things kind of ensue from there. Like, do they escape? Do they not escape? And I believe this is a finished trilogy, and again, that's really all I know about it, but I believe there's somehow dragons involved in this in some way, shape, or form. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure there's dragons in this. Shatter Me series. Now again, extremely popular series. This was really popular even back in my day. I don't know why I never read it. I still have not read it. I'm excited to read this book series, but it's a set in a dystopian world. Our main character has some type of, like, if you touch her, you die kind of like things, powers, or whatever you want to describe it as. She's kept as a prisoner, but things kind of happen, and I think she kind of has to go on a journey and kind of save the Republic or whatever's happening in the story. That's all I got. That's all I know. I think there's like 6 or 7 books in the series. I've heard it's really good writing. I think it's very interesting. I know this is supposed to be really fast paced, and that's all I got. All right, we got 3 more books here, 3 more books. Kingmakers by Sophie Lark. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. It's a university-aged one. Pretty much all of the world's, like, gang members, bratva, like mobs, they send all their kids to this university, and that's just kind of what ensues. It follows our main character. I don't know if they're in love, but our main character, I think it's Leo. Leo loves our main character, Anna. They've been best friends since they've grown up. I don't know that Leo knows that Anna loves her. But anyway, one of the Bratva sons or whatever that's supposed to take over in this university, he ends up kind of like vowing to take over anything that Leo loves, aka Anna is part of that sacrifice. Things kind of ensue from there. I don't know if this is considered a YA, maybe a new adult. I think that's a more accurate description. But there's several books in this series. I think it's interesting. I love the aspect of a university for like all of the like despicables of the world, right? Like, I think it's very interesting. Like how do you run a mob? Like, apparently this is where they learn. So I find that like very, very intriguing and very interesting. So I'm interested to get into that one. Like, what more could, like, oh, all the mobs in Bratva, like that's how they run the crime underworld. Like, how interesting, right? Hush Hush. Now, I know this is a very, again, OG series, but I haven't read it. I believe it's a finished trilogy. I think they're like in their teenage years, something about fallen angels, and that's literally all I know about it. I've heard really good things about this. This is one of my old acquaintances, like this is her all-time favorite book series that she'd read over and over again. So I don't know, I've heard really good things. Fallen angels, possibly a prophecy. That's all I know. That's all I got. All right, are you ready? This is the last book that I have on my physical TBR. Thank you for holding on this long. I promise I'm done after this one, but Murtaugh. Now, this is the, I don't know if it's necessarily the beginning book or the ending book, but it's part of somehow in the Aragon series world, right? I loved Aragon as a kid, and I think this is just as good. Like, it's got dragons in it, dragon riders. It's set in like a fantasy world. I believe Murtaugh is kind of on the run after everything that has happened or occurred maybe in the Aragon series. Again, I don't know the timeline exactly of this one, but again, it's part of the Aragon series. I love Christopher Paolini's writing style. I really love his intricacies in his plot lines. I like how it's easily laid out to understand in the magical world, and so I think this is really going to be a really fun, easy read. Anyway, that is the last book that I have to show you. I am so excited to get through all these books. I can't believe I had so many books. I genuinely thought I only had like 30 books that I haven't read on my physical TBR. Like, lies to myself. I am lying to myself. I cannot believe that, but I had so much fun talking about all these books. I wonder, let me know down in the comments if you've got any of these books on your physical TBR or if you're going to add them to your physical TBR. You're welcome in advance. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening to me yap about all these books and everything on my physical TBR. It literally has like rejuvenated myself. Like, yeah, I really want to read these books. Like, there's quite a few I want to prioritize to get onto, but I'm really excited to get to these books soon. I'm excited to put them back on my bookshelves and organize everything on there because there's lots going on over there. But anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Happy reading.